We're live. Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the March Fire Safe Council meeting. We will start out with welcome and introductions. We'll go around the room and then we'll get all of you to introduce yourselves on the board. I guess we'll start with me. Philip Seamy, I'm the Emergency Operations Manager for Trinity County OES.
Hello, this is Skylar Fisher, and I work at the Trinity County RCD as the County Fire Safe Council Coordinator.
Jill Cox, Board of Supervisors.
Kelly Sheen, District Manager, well, I guess I should say Executive Director of the County Resource Conservation District.
Miles Raymond, Education Coordinator at the TCRCD.
Chris Losey, what is my power? Environment. Sorry, General Environmental Services Manager. Okay.
I'm Jessica Burrows. I'm ecologist / environmental consultant.
Emily Acer, Grizzly Corps Fellow with TCRCD.
Crystal Hodges, GIS Technician, Trinity County Resource Conservation District.
Okay, and then we'll go up to Zoom and we will start with Cindy with Noromook.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Cindy. I'm with the Noromook Wintu Nation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Looks like Dale.
Good morning. Yes, Dale Wilson, Douglas City Fire Safe Council Board. My wife is also listening in. She is on the board as well.
Thank you, Dale. Who do we have that's under Skylar now? I'm sorry?
Oh, is that Heidi?
Heidi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I met a lot of you last week. I'm Heidi McHugh. I am the district representative for Trinity, Humboldt, and Del Norte counties for Assembly Member Chris Rogers.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, and it blurs out when I can. Kristen.
Yeah, hi, Kristen Lark, the District Ranger for the Mad River Ranger District on 6 Rivers. I know I don't often pop in on these meetings, but I'm here today, so thank
you. Welcome. We got Dale. Robert.
Yeah, hang on one second so you can see my mug for a minute. Bob Doucette, back from the dead, Shasta Trinity Public Affairs.
Thank you, Robert.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy to see you on the call.
Hey, good to be here.
Larry Glass.
Hey, Larry Glass from representing SAFE and local area advisor for South Fork Mountain.
Thank you, Larry. Jerry Cousins.
Hi, everybody. Jerry Cousins with the Trinity County Collaborative.
Thank you, Jerry. Giselle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Giselle Nova. I am the coordinator for the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County and just here to listen in and see how y'all do it.
Okay, well, let's hope we do well.
Yeah.
Shay.
Hi, I'm the Program Manager of Forest Health at the Trinity County RCD.
Thank you, Shay. Jeff Meyer.
Hi, my name is Jeff Meyer. Resident up at Ruth and active with the fire district up there and volunteer and just kind of help out in that area up there.
Thank you, Jeff. Kent Collard.
Yeah, hi, Kent Collard with the Bar 717 Ranch in High and Palm, and I'm here on behalf of the High and Palm Fire Safe Council today.
Thank you. Gotta get everybody in here. Okay, and let's see who we still have out there. Sophia.
Hi, everyone. Sophia Sadie here with the Watershed Center. Happy to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, Sophia. Anybody that I missed? Anybody else?
Ben Kellogg.
Ben Kellogg.
Hi, good afternoon. Ben Kellogg from Weaverville. Not sure what to call myself at this point in time. I have applied for the Weaverville Fire Safe Council board, so happy to be here.
All right, Ben, thank you very much. Okay, do we get anybody else?
That person still. I think we have a Skylar online. Do you mind introducing yourself? Your tag says Skylar. Great name.
Yeah, this is Elliot Grew, Forest Service over in Hayfork Fields Department. We got myself, Elliot Grew, and Chris Lloyd in attendance.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, this is my first Zoom meeting. We did the web browser. So anyway, it's probably coming up weird that way.
Oh, I found that if you add, I think through the calendar invite, you automatically get my name, so I apologize for that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, is that all the Skylars that we have on online now? We got one other, let's see.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we have one more Skylar. Okay. All right, well, welcome everybody. I'm glad so many people chimed in online. We will go ahead and first start with any additions or changes to the agenda. Hearing none. Do we have anybody that needs to depart early that would like to report out? We're going to be going in the opposite direction. So we'll be starting with the watershed and working our way down to BLM. So anybody need to leave early that wants to report out? Okay, seeing none, we'll go into discussions, and I will turn that over to Skylar on our letter of the impact of federal funding freeze.
Okay, thank you, Philip. So I just sent the link in the chat, which has the agenda and meeting materials attached. So you can review the draft letter within that agenda and meeting materials. But would anyone prefer if I instead did it through share screen so that it's through the Zoom? Okay, hearing none. So and please feel free to chime in at any point if you'd like to change how we're doing this viewing. So at the last Fire Safe Council meeting in February, the council was reviewing some letters that were submitted by the Shasta County Board of Supervisors, and one of the letters was regarding an ask to expedite federally funded wildfire risk reduction projects. And that inspired a conversation of this group on what if instead of submitting a letter like that, instead investigating over the next month what the impacts of the federal funding freeze was on federally funded field reduction or wildfire risk reduction projects on the Trinity landscape, what the impact on reduction in staff of federal staff is on the Trinity County's wildfire resilience if they're not working on these projects, and then also do some research on what projects were impacted by the federal freeze. So I reached out to some of our federal partners and did a little bit of investigation. And when we decided this would be a topic for this month's meeting, there was discussion on there being like a series of letters, so one for each topic. The information that I was able to get combined with the sort of fluid nature of like the funding freeze, or so some of the funds were frozen and so projects were halted, but then some of the funding has since been unfrozen, so some projects are back online. Some agreements which are to be awarded have not been awarded yet. Some seem to be on track to be awarded soon, but may not have a super concrete timeline. And so based on that, in combination with some of the talks that I've had with some of our federal partners on impacts, the letter transformed from a series into one 2.5-page letter, which touches on each of those topics. So I apologize that the materials went out a little late. I was tooling over this for a little while, just trying to make sure that I'm representing everything accurately. And so the letter is broken down into 12 paragraphs. So opening with an introduction to the Fire Safe Council. The second, talking about the current situation or concern regarding federal funding freezes or impacts to federal wildfire risk reduction projects. Then getting more into the substance of it. So concern of the impact of reduction in staff on this work getting done in paragraph 3, in paragraph 4, the impacts of this on project delays. Paragraph 5, talking about the impacts on budget constraints and normal operations to our federal partners. Paragraph 6, talking about impacts to staff going forward and the uncertainty there. And then in paragraph 7, which is just a sentence, we transition from the more federal entity focus into partners. So first opening with the RCD with I really just plagiarized all the great information that was already put together and put in the Trinity Journal, so that was really helpful. So opening with that with the Trinity County RCD, and then the next paragraph with the Trinity Public Utilities District with their Community Wildfire Defense Grant being delayed in award. And then going into the Trinity County Good Neighbor Authority in paragraph 10 and how funding has been impacted. And then wrapping up the letter in paragraph 11 with sort of a summary, and then paragraph 12 with a conclusion. So because this is transformed a little bit since our last conversation, I generally just wanted to see what everybody's input was on if this was something that we were still hoping to push forward and submit comment on, and if so, if it's at a stage where we like it, or if we want it to be tooled a little bit more. And then at the end of the third page, I also put potential recipients, because that was one of the things that we discussed at the last meeting when we were reviewing those letters that were submitted by the Shasta County Board of Supervisors. The recipients were the governor and the president's office. We decided we didn't think that they would be the appropriate recipients of the letter. We had talked about our state representatives and then also potentially the Board of Supervisors. So I wrote those out. But if we wanted to remove any of those or add anyone, if we did want to go forward with that, I also wanted to get that input. So that, I think, is all I will say at this point. Thank you.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of work. Thank you, Skylar. So do we want to let this soak and get a chance for everybody to review it and bring this back up? Are we wanting to decide on this at this point, or is this something that we would discuss as far as finalization at next month's meeting?
I would be happy either way if we wanted to talk today, or if we just want this to be an opportunity to introduce the letter, and then we can get back to it and decide at the next, would you please share the letter? Yes. So it's in the meeting attachments within this constant contact link, but I can also, here, I'll just share my screen. We can review it this way as well. So this is the first page. And then I cannot see the participants. So if anybody online wants to say anything, please just unmute and please do.
So this is Jerry. Skylar, I think it's a great letter, actually. Well done.
Thank you.
If we wait a month, you'll probably have to update impacts, which is not much of an issue. The one thing I think maybe could be stressed more is the depletion of the skill set. That as people are laid off and brought back and laid off, some people are not coming back even when offered because they're fearful of the next step. And that is really shrinking the people who can do the work. And at some point, there may not be enough people. So I don't know if that's something that would be worth stressing.
And Skylar, as you mentioned, a fair number of the items that were specifically mentioned, both in that article and in this letter, have been released, as far as the funding becoming now available. So it's, I'm not, I think having some focus, as Jerry was pointing out, on the impacts, the larger overall impacts that we're gonna see actually down the road because of the lack of capacity with our federal partners is also something that I think that to me is becoming actually more of a concern than the funding that we're looking at. This was a lot, and it was very important to sort of document and to get that knowledge out to the public in general. But I think, yeah, a more of a focus on our ability to continue to work with our federal partners may be a focus, maybe something that we can enhance within a letter such as this.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you able to see the chat? Skylar, I put a note in there. This is Kristen. Just had a couple minor corrections. I didn't know how you would like to handle those.
Nope, please let me know.
Okay, so in your paragraph 2, where you talk about the federal employee deferred resignation and less than 1 year federal employee layoff, I would change that less than 1 year to probationary, because it was actually either 1 or 2 years. So we had some staff that were in a 2-year probationary period that were laid off. For example, there's actually still some OGC lawyers and attorney staff that were in a 2-year probationary period that have not yet returned to the job. So that's a minor correction there. And you might want to add in VERA, the Voluntary Early Retirement Authority, was also authorized for the agency. And so that is another avenue where there's loss of staff that's occurring. And then down in the, let's see where it's, other paragraph, page 2 on the second paragraph about uncertainty around layoffs. That one sentence about early retirement or left voluntarily is could be a little bit more clear to talk about filling those jobs. I mean, if somebody took an early retirement or left, those jobs remain absent. So something, maybe make it a little bit more clear about backfilling behind those jobs.
Kristen,
Yeah.
Are you able to provide any more detail on, as far as like backfilling work, I've heard about the federal hiring freeze being a problem with regard to that. Is that true? And is that something that you could expound upon a little bit?
Yeah, the hiring freeze is still in place, correct. The only things that have just recently, like within the last day or two, have been unfrozen is that staff that are currently in a career ladder position, like a GS 579, those are authorized to go forward where they had been frozen. So I have a couple employees now that will get their next grade level. Additionally, the other job hiring that's been unfrozen are details for line officers. So district rangers, forest supervisors, those jobs will be filled, but everything else is still under a hiring freeze. Additionally, the typical press releases that you would see when a district ranger or forest supervisor was hired, you're not really going to be seeing those. So it's going to be kind of word of mouth, Currently, Ted MacArthur is filling in for the Lassen National Forest for a month or so until that position is filled. They're close. And, you know, we've lost some other regional foresters and such, and they are working, the agency is working rapidly to fill behind those line officer positions. So hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. And just one other thing about the funding is that it is still stop and go. And so I just got a note today that the IRA funds are still on hold. So, you know, work that you guys have been doing and charging, putting in those invoices, I believe those are been getting paid. But for new agreements and contracts that have not yet been either solicited or gone through, of which I have one, or gone through the grants and agreements portal, that funding has not yet been released. So it's hard to be real definitive. I think your letter is still accurate and touches on what's going on. I think, and like Jerry said, you wait 30 days and it could be different. I think the sooner you get this letter out, the better. And I think it's pretty accurate on what's still going on with the funding. So with my quick read, just seeing the letter right now, that's pretty much the extent of my comments.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. It's appreciated.
Of course.
And, Giselle, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm looking for just a little feedback. We're running into some of these issues and we don't have a letter like this, but I'm thinking, looking at your letter, it might be a good idea if we do. We have several federally funded grants, including a 10 million CWDG grant for 500 homes of defensible space in Siskiyou County. And this last round, we applied for another 500 homes. So we've been in contact with our grants person out of region. She's a Washington gal. And she told us, because we just stopped everything because we didn't want to do any implementation and not be able to pay our contractors. And she recently contacted us and said, move forward. They got a release from Washington that it's off a pause, but nothing in writing. So our board is still trepidatious, and they said, well, we're not going to move until we get something in writing. So I went back to her and she said, you probably won't ever get anything in writing. So just go for it. What do you guys think? What would you do?
Chris, do you have a comment on that, or you were shaking your head? Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, yeah, great idea.
Giselle, I'd say go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. Well,
Yep.
that's what I said, but we have a couple of board members that are still kind of shaken about the whole idea. They don't want to get down the road and owe large amounts of money to people that we can't pay. However, all of our 270s that we've submitted on all of our grants, federal, they're being paid. Even the CWDG they never stopped paying it. We just kept submitting and they kept paying. So I don't know, I don't know who. Well, we'll just do what we need to do, but that's good. Thank you, Jerry. That's good encouragement.
Giselle, this is Kelly with the Trinity County RCD. I would say if you're getting, we have a second round CWDG award for $8 million that hasn't been executed yet, but they are moving forward with that, as well as the RFP process for the third round. So just based on the fact that, this is funding that's really meant to do, fuels, wildfire mitigation is a pretty solid go. I think generally for the federal government at this point, it would be really hard for them to back down on the work that they're committing to through that program. So I would say, we're pretty comfortable with moving forward when we're in that position. And we have several partners that already had first round CWDG grants that have given us the green light. So we are moving forward.
Awesome. Yeah, ours is first round. We didn't apply second round. We applied third round and it looks promising. So we'll see what happened. One of our other issues is the press. So we had one guy reach out. He's from Siskiyou Dispatch. And I said, please remain apolitical. And as you report this, we put online a letter saying to all of our folks that we've said we're going to come visit you and do your home assessment, we are on pause. And they grabbed a hold of that letter and they wanted to, of course, adrenalize it and make it very interesting. And even though I asked him to be apolitical, he was not. So then Cal Matters, another online newspaper from Sacramento, also reached out to us and I talked to her and she wanted to come up and take pictures. And we've just decided to back off all press because we kind of thought it might advertise our program, and someone pointed out they're not advertisement. They are the press, and they probably won't do it how you want. So we've decided that maybe we should not give interviews. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good point. I think that's a good stance to take in these times.
Yeah.
Definitely. Jerry, you have your hand up.
I did, thanks. Just, Skylar, you might want to put a disclaimer in, given how things happen and then don't happen and then happen again, about something saying, as of the date of this letter, these are the things that are happening, just so, because things will change after you write it. So that's just one suggestion, and I know it's a long one, but maybe send it to the Trinity Journal too.
Okay.
I would speak to Giselle's question. There was an article a couple of weeks back in the Trinity Journal, which is the local newspaper here in Trinity County. And as Skylar mentioned, a fair bit of the details that are in this letter were from information that I provided to the journal. The specific reporter that I worked with, I thought, did a fairly good job of characterizing much of what has been captured in this letter, and didn't do a lot of sensationalizing, which I was glad about. I characterized my comments fairly accurately, so I don't know that I guess it depends on the specific publication about as to what you might expect, or we took that step because we felt like it needed to get out to the people. So we went ahead and did that, and I was pretty pleased with how that particular article turned out.
That's awesome. Yeah. We didn't have, he wasn't bad, but he sure took a political stance. And so with Cal Matters, I know that they also are very political, and I don't want to go there with all this DEI stuff and reapplying for a grant. I don't want to put ourselves on the radar. Maybe I'm being chicken, but yeah, I'm trying to do it in a way that we're going to be successful. So anyway, thank you guys for all your input. I appreciate you.
I have one question just about the accuracy here, because I thought that when I last spoke with Rachel and Tara, that everything that was in our Good Neighbor Authority was already through grants and agreements, and that was good to go. I don't know this to be the case, that the GNA funding is paused.
Okay. I grabbed that from the article. So, but if it was never paused, then I can take it out.
It was my impression that it was funded through IRA and that it had been paused.
Which you get your emotion from?
From speaking with folks. And actually, it was through, I also had got confirmation from the forest that was the case.
I'm gonna check on that for you.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments on the letter? Everybody's gotten a chance to kind of read through it.
Understood.
I guess then we kind of decide if we're gonna, it sounds like Joel was going to get a little more information, but at that point,
So it seems like the group is interested in sending this out with some revisions. So the summary of revisions that I have are include a paragraph or some language regarding the impacts of federal partners' ability to engage with organizations, local and state organizations operating on the landscape, the impact of layoff and return on retention and knowledge within different federal agencies in Trinity County, highlight the hiring freeze and also the backfilling issue, highlight, like really emphasize the stop and go nature of the current situation. Put a little bit more emphasis on the uncertainty about new agreements and contracts at this point, and then also maybe open the letter by saying this is all based on, at the time of writing, this is how we understand the situation. Am I missing anything that folks would like to be removed or added? And we will also wait on sending out the letter until we verify if the Good Neighbor Authority was impacted by the funding pause.
The only wording comment that I add would be a little bit of clarity in the statement about the Good Neighbor Authority and making it, because when I read this, I was a little bit, it was oddly worded in my mind. It might be clearer to say something to the effect of the County of Trinity has a Good Neighbor Authority and an executed Good Neighbor Authority agreement for 2.9 million with the Forest Service. Just to, because to me, it was reading a little bit off in my mind.
Okay.
Because I was reading it almost like the Trinity County Good Neighbor Authority, like it's like almost like its own entity.
Right. Okay, I can make that revision.
okay,
Thank you.
all right. And then, are you going, when this is completed, are we pretty much good with the changes to where it won't have to come back out for a revision? Or a review. We'll just go ahead and make those changes and submit.
I'm fine with it if the group is.
Any comments online?
What about the recipients?
Good question. So does anyone want to remove or add any recipients under potential recipients? Jerry suggested submitting the letter to the Trinity Journal, so I added that.
I might suggest that it actually go to Governor Newsom's office and probably Wade Crowfoot at the Natural Resources Agency.
Hey, Kelly, could you say those names again? It was kind of muffled.
Sorry, I was suggesting that it go to Governor Newsom's office and then Wade Crowfoot, who is the secretary, I think he's the secretary for the Natural Resources Agency, which is kind of the umbrella agency at the state level for pretty much like Department of Conservation and EPA and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, thanks.
What about the chief of the Forest Service? One sector guy.
So on that, pause that for 1 second. No, I think it's a wonderful thing. With that, to me, there isn't a solid enough ask. There's a lot of information, a lot of impact, but 2.5 pages is a lot to ask people to work their way through. And getting them, if they get to the end of the second and a half page, being very clear about what you're asking is helpful. And maybe what would be a good idea is once that is made clear in like a sentence, maybe lead with it. Then go through all of our who we are, where we're going and what we want. And then you could close with it again if you want to. I just know sometimes things of that length you get. Oh, another one. And put off to the side. So to Chris's point, if that's where it's gonna go, I think that it's really important that that ask is clear.
So, Jill, just a response there. There's so much information and different items in the letter. It seems to me very difficult to come out with a single ask. And so maybe it is just information only. I mean, I could come up with a single ask, but I don't think it would resonate well.
But to what point? You're gonna send this out to tell them what? I mean, aren't we all pretty clear on this is what's going on? Why send the letter if you're not asking for something?
I guess the ask is fix it. You know, I mean, we've identified all the problems.
Let the money flow.
I agree with Jill. I think it's really important to have that ask right at the top. I think and Skylar can figure out what the boiled down ask is.
I think it would be to support, you know, our continuing efforts for doing wildfire mitigation projects.
Right.
Something to highlight. I mean, we've highlighted the problems, but yeah, I think just having a general awareness of the problems is one thing, but you know, what we're really looking for is support.
So, and I think to that end too, like, how about if we approach this from a standpoint of we really all do agree on the same thing? We have heard again and again, our president say that this is a priority, that we manage our forests and that we don't burn up. Okay, to that end, that isn't gonna happen unless we do the work. So while I get phrases, well, we make sure that where the money is flying out to is productive for all concerned. I think we would all agree, this is that place where it is. And so I think that leading with something like that, where because again, like, I mean, Heidi is here, maybe we get her feeling on it. If this is gonna go to her boss, you know, how do you think that that's gonna land, Heidi? He's gonna wanna hear, well, what is it that you want me to advocate for you in this way? Oops, you've gone unmuted, but we don't hear you.
Not hearing you.
Still don't.
Fine.
I wanna hear what she has to say.
Or maybe while she's figuring that out, maybe the big ask to lead with is maintain programs for reducing fire risk.
There you go. Yep.
So the last sentence of the final paragraph is the Fire Safe Council and its member organizations can only succeed in reducing wildfire risk if our federal partners succeed. And we want them here fully engaged with the resources and support necessary to carry out their work. Is something like that what we want to open with, or is that still too fluffy? Like
No, I think that reinforces a very direct ask. I like it. So if we open up with an ask to, we need support in reducing wildfire risk, and then go through the list of the problems that are preventing that, and then you wrap it up nicely at the end.
I'm gonna suggest, I hear you and I love that. Jerry, I think we should get a little bit stronger from this standpoint. If we go back maybe a year-ish, when Kelly and Nick and Rachel were all kind of the focus of the governor's task force meeting. And there was so much in the room outside of the Shasta Trinity Forest. There was so much, oh my goodness, you guys are like the model. How can we be more like you with all this collaborative work and implementation of funds so successfully? Okay, so all of that momentum in one direction suddenly getting a funding, freeze roadblock. Considering that I think the governor's task force meeting is coming up this next week yet again.
It's in Marin.
I'm not sure where, I just think it's soon. I think the timing of this to get it off quickly. But I think highlighting how much success there has been on this forest and, this roadblock here now stands in our way. I think, I think just going back and grabbing that success and the energy and the impetus that was moving forward and spotlighting that, as we say, please let us keep going with the accomplishment.
Okay.
Kristen,
Yeah, thanks. Takes me a little while to figure out how to raise my hand in this. I agree with Jill. I think you need to lead out with a strong statement. I think you need to ask for that funding to be immediately released. That's funding that's already been obligated. So I would word that strongly, that that's released. I think that the agencies need to be allowed to hire critical personnel in order to implement these projects that we're working on. And I think you need to emphasize the success and robust nature of local decision-making. That's what we're going to see. And so with what Jill was saying about showcasing the success, tie that back into, we know what to do with these dollars. We've shown that we have the expertise and the partnerships that allow us to make robust decisions, and we will spend the money accordingly, in alignment with the president's mandate. And I think you need to tie it back to that and just word it really strongly.
And just as a piece of wordsmithing, putting succeed in there 2 times. We could use, like, one of those can be changed to something different, I think. I typically, when I'm writing, I don't like to use the same type of, like, a word like that more than once.
Okay.
I'll make one more suggestion. I guess actually there's 2. One is to try to keep it to 2 pages.
Skylar, add all of this in.
One way to potentially do that is to consolidate all the projects. You've got a lot of numbers, 9.75 million, 2.9 million, 65,000 acres. This is, I think that those numbers are just good in kind of like describing the enormity of it, the importance of it, the impact of it. I think it all be put under the same list of bullets. Bullets might be, powerful. Bullets tend to be powerful because they just kind of show visually that there's a lot of impact. So perhaps all of the discrete projects could be placed in bullet points under the same header. Right, I see that you kind of lumped RCD into one header, but I don't think, I'm sure Kelly doesn't care if they're lumped with other non-RCD projects to show just how they're all related, and how this is a group of actions we're trying to do. And then in the narrative, you can talk about federal staffing and how that affects the ability to work with partners. But putting all the projects together in kind of shorter bullet points might help make it more punchy and also save some space.
So we could consolidate everything under like known local partner projects that have been impacted, and then all executed agreements which were paused. We could say, X number of acres, X number of dollars were temporarily paused, and then these like X number of dollars we're still waiting on in agreements that should be awarded, but we have no clear timeline on when they'll be awarded. So we could consolidate the RCD paragraph and TPUD paragraph into like 2 sentences essentially, and then potentially include the GNA within that if it turns out that funding was paused.
I'm saying it's useful to have the bullet points. To not to summarize it, but to have all the numbers. I think the numbers are useful because they show that this is a small county with a lot of money that's being held up that will help us, better manage our forests. So putting all of them together, I was suggesting like, you could potentially shorten some of the bullets, but have a separate bullet for each project. So that way you're showing, you can just look at it, because, how many people, I remember hearing, many times, if your resume is more than one page, people will throw it away. In the days when people read resumes, now it's online, so it's AI reads it, so it doesn't matter, but there was a time when, so, if you put all your bullets, all your projects aligned under that would be a way to save space potentially. And
one point response size actually gets you a long ways too.
Robert, go ahead.
Admittedly, I have not read this letter yet because I was on hiatus, but if there is not a line in the letter just describing the efficacy of past projects that are similar to the ones that you're hoping to fund, that might not be a bad ad. I know you've had some success with different projects that when fire came through, that pretty much halted it. So I'm not sure how you'd graph that in there without actually reading the text of it. But the idea of saying, hey, we did this and it worked and it saved, a lot of grief. And this is what we're trying to do to keep that momentum going. Help us out here, kind of thing.
Okay, that's a good point.
Okay, so in addition to the revisions I've gone over, we have some more revisions, which is change the final sentence, change one that succeeds, add to the top of the letter in the first sentence prior to the current first paragraph. And I don't have my wordsmithing hammer on me currently, but something to the effect of a strongly worded and concise sentence or two, which states that funding should be released and agencies should be able to hire the necessary staff to get critical work done, to continue the great collaborative efforts and work that has been happening on the Trinity County landscape, and then also link that back to the current federal priorities to reduce wildfire risk nationwide. Okay, and then consolidate the local partners that we know have either experienced project delays due to the freeze or who are still waiting on agreements or contracts to be executed. And bump it down a font size. Get it to 2 pages.
Kelly pulling out college tips.
Yeah. Do a narrow margin.
Narrow margin. Narrow margin, smaller fonts.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. I can't figure out how to raise my hand on the mobile version of this, but yeah, no, I completely agree with Jill. Like, we have to act like no one knows what we're talking about and put our best foot forward in this letter to start out. And then as far as the wording, through my work, I've got a bunch of AI tools that I could realistically, when the letter's done, I could wordsmith it and give you guys some feedback if needed.
Thank you. Okay.
All right.
Does anyone disagree with our team going back and making all these changes, and then once the changes have been made, sending them off? Not hearing.
I want
Yes.
to look at it again.
Okay.
One way that we could do it is
Not
that
everyone
once
does it.
once there's like a final draft version, it could be sent out to the just to the group. requesting any specific comments coming back, and if we hear none, then we would, like, give it a day or two, maybe 2 days, max,
Okay.
for people to comment on it, and then short of that, it would go out in that form. And just be clear about that.
Okay.
That way people could have a final look at it and make a comment. For their final.
Okay.
And so to your list, you added Secretary Crowfoot and you added.
Yes. So we have the Trinity Journal, Governor Newsom, Wade Crowfoot, and then our Area 9 Forest Service rep or chief.
I'm just thinking the chief of the whole Forest Service.
Oh, the chief of the.
And I guess the regional forester is retiring on Monday or something, Kristen? Isn't the regional forester retiring?
Yes, Jennifer Eberline is retiring, and I'm not sure who's filling in behind her yet. We haven't heard.
Oh.
I don't know if that's gonna be useful.
In a quick question, in any of these projects that you guys have listed here, do you have any industry partners that you're working with, like SPI or Lumber? Anybody like that?
Not for these.
We'll get it.
Those, okay.
So, but well, I was just curious. I mean, Sierra Pacific will do their own thing. They just got the 75 million to increase those.
Yeah.
Who, they probably just have enough capacity within. No, they do some contracting as well, but no.
All right. I was just thinking that could be another hook. Our new chief is has a strong industry background. So, but if it's not there, then that's fine.
Yeah, I can't, it's a good thought, Kristen. I just don't, to the best of my knowledge, though, everything that we've noted with regard to these projects specifically are not direct, they're not directly partnered with like SPI or industries, generally speaking.
Okay. So we will revise the letter with the provided comments and then send it out to the group for a 2-day review period where you can send back any feedback you would like. And then we will send it out to the recipients that we originally came to the group with, and then those additionally provided. Are there any other recipients folks would like to receive the letter, or you would like to be removed from the recipient list? Yay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for all of that great information, and to Skylar for the work that put into this letter. And so with that, if we're good with this one and the changes, we'll go ahead and move on to the next discussion letter, which is the vegetation management ordinance.
Yes, so this was something that was brought up in the last meeting, was to discuss the county's vegetation management ordinance. So I've heard a few different ideas about next steps forward on this. So I was actually hoping, I see Carol is on call, but we also have Jill in the room. I was wondering if one of you minded leading this discussion.
Sure. So basically, the veg management ordinance probably is pretty good in itself. If there are changes that people want to make to it, that's very easy to do and certainly would be welcome. It's the kind of thing where, so Trent and I have had this conversation a number of times. The county doesn't want to be in a position where we look like the big bad wolf going out, knocking on people's doors, do this or else. Then, if you think about the process and you think about the result, do we really want to say, you need to spend these thousands of dollars doing this thing that we see clearly that you need to do? if they had the thousands of dollars to do it, they'd probably do it. And not that it should be fine, right, for things to not be cleaned up and we endanger other people's property. But more of like, instead of the stick, the carrot, instead of, you know, you're gonna have a notice of violation and now you have 7 days to fix your problem and, you know, and then where does that lead what if that problem comes up in the dead of winter? Well, 7 days to fix that problem in the dead of winter doesn't make sense. You know, like, how do you establish consistency and also provide guidance, provide help? And so as a first step, our thought was, you know, could we better educate? Could we offer solutions that are there? So that's kind of where it sits. We also, quite frankly, there isn't capacity. There isn't some, you know, code enforcement officer that's got all this time on their hands to run out and do this. And general fund dollars, there aren't to just go create this. And so I think it's going to have to be where we get creative, and we're so good at being collaborative. You know, how do we help instead of just find a bigger hammer? So that is what I will lead with.
As an organization, you know, that basically is frequently tasked with going into, you know, different communities and essentially sort of creating some sort of momentum behind this work. You know, we run into issues with, you know, people, there's usually 3 main reasons why people don't do this work like on their own. They either can't afford it, are physically not capable of doing it, or simply don't want it done. Sometimes, you know, we go into a community where we're doing a project like this, and even when we have funding to treat a specific community, there are people that basically, they want a visual screen. There's certain, you know, aspects or aesthetics that or reasons why they want to leave, you know, Scotch broom in a place, or you know, specific like walls of trees, you know, to basically you know, not have, you know, to have a visual screen, say, between their neighbors or their property and a road. And so I think sometimes it has to do with those specific things, but sometimes it also has to do with the fact that, you know, we don't necessarily have a project where we're going to be able to treat a particular community. So we take, you know, community feedback, and then if we get enough of a moment, you know, enough like interest in a specific community, we will make sure to target that community in a upcoming CAL FIRE ask, for example. And so, so I think, you know, Jill and I had a discussion a little bit about this, and the carrot idea, I think, is a strong one. But what we end up doing when we do that is oftentimes we're more focused on specific communities. And I think having a better way to outreach to the community to get their needs, both to educate them about like what the importance of that is, you know, like what the importance of defensible space is, what the importance of, you know, roadside fuels are, is a component of it. But the other piece is just making sure that that landowners know that there are entities like the RCD or the Watershed Center that are actively doing this work within the communities. That if they get a neighborhood together behind them, we can help them. And I think just educating them about the fact that there are other alternatives than either paying out of their pocket or having breaking their own backs to be able to do it is a part of where I think we can be probably more successful at getting this work done more globally within the county, without necessarily having to resort to like, oh no, here's the stick, you just need to do this thing in whatever way that you can. When a lot of times you just can't get the blood from the turnip type of thing. So So I'm supportive of the carrot.
I see Carol
method.
has.
Yeah, go ahead, Carol. No, we can't hear you. Uh-oh. Now,
You're going on mute, but we still can't hear you.
Could it be on our end since Heidi had the same, well, others?
Okay, I figured it out, I think.
there you go.
Sorry, I'm using Pat's computer. It's totally different than my setup. So, I think Jill and Kelly are both right, but I have some specific suggestions. And so the current ordinance, it definitely needs to be reviewed and revised to make it more workable, to have different layers of contact initially and then at a certain point, the stick. So I would suggest that we maybe have a subgroup or something that really looks at this. Jill did a wonderful job of pulling together a lot of the vegetation ordinances from other counties that I haven't finished going through. But I think we need to look at how other people have made this work. So that's one suggestion. The second is regarding the comment about education. I think the Fire Safe Council, the RCD, and now CAL FIRE are really doing a good job on education. I think I don't know what I'm supposed to do excuse is going away. And so, we can do more education, but at a certain point, I don't think people can use that excuse anymore, at least not up our way. And the third thing is the stick. Specifically, we have people who absolutely refuse to do any fuel reduction, even though all their neighbors, like the Ridgeville Homeowners Association, has one particular landowner that is a fire threat for evacuation, but he refuses to do anything. And so they're stumped, they're like, we've talked to him, the fire department has offered to go help. There are some landowners where we send them letters and say, we have a grant and we will do this for you for free. And all we need is your temporary entry permit, and they refuse to even do that. And so at a certain point, you are going to need some sort of stick. So that would be my comments. Revise the ordinance, maybe do more education, but still include a stick.
Yeah, agreed, Carol. I hear you on that. When there are very specific situations where you've tried every other thing. So I would be really supportive of Carol's idea that this group put together a small little task force among yourselves that can review the ordinances with her and bring back suggestions of how you would like to see this done differently.
So maybe Skylar and I can kind of take the lead on that. Skylar's got great ideas.
That sounds good. And if anyone else is interested in joining the group, and I can put it in our next mailer to an invitation for anyone who might not be here. And then we could figure out logistics on meeting and what our first. All right, sounds good.
I'm in.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion on ordinance?
I had a question.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm skimming it right now. Are there any differences between the Trinity County ordinance and any differences in the requirements between the Trinity County ordinance and what would already be required under CAL FIRE? And it looks like it's primarily a mechanism to get people to comply, but it doesn't look like there's any additional standards. Is that correct? Or there are additional or different standards when it comes to it?
The main difference is that the CAL FIRE ordinances apply to structures. So within a certain feet of structures, you need to have defensible space. They will come out and red tag. They will come out and be the enforcement arm, although with their limited staff, what we see is them red tagging and never following up to see if the work was done. So there's that difference that their regulations only apply around structures. this ordinance also applies further away from structures and on vacant land. So if someone owns a parcel in the middle of subdivision and it's totally overgrown, right now, that owner has no obligation to reduce fuels. But this ordinance, you know, would affect them and would, you know, encourage them to go ahead and do it. You know, I've told you guys this before. We have used this ordinance in the past, where homeowners have an issue, and so I file complaints with the code enforcement officer. The code enforcement officer has come out and talked to them, and then the people have done the work. And it hasn't been you know, hasn't gotten to the point where they have actually tried to levy the lien on their taxes or anything like that. It's just mostly been the final push that convinced them to do something.
I wonder if that being the case, Carol, because that's like the best outcome situation, right? We have a conversation and then it just gets done. With the county's limited ability to send somebody out to do that all the time, is there any possibility that an arm of the RCD could be the conversation piece on behalf of the county? Or is that kind of not a thing that you do?
We would not be able to, we're not a regulatory agency, so we wouldn't be able, I mean, we could have a conversation certainly, but we wouldn't be able to like make any kinds of threats or
Sure.
like, you know, like, or say even, you know, like, well, if you don't do this, then you're gonna, there's gonna be a fine that would be levied by the county on, you know, da, 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 da. So, I mean, it's not much more than what we're already doing as far as education is concerned. Outside of possibly advocating in specific instances where we, you know, would maybe target our educational capacity to have a conversation, you know, that basically says, well, you know, this is what we're, you know, what we're capable of doing to assist you, but we wouldn't be able to like strong arm anybody.
Yeah, maybe part of the education could be awareness of an updated ordinance.
You know, so we might ask the Fire Chiefs Association if the fire departments would be willing to provide that educational, you know, kind of outreach, because right now we do that on burn permits. So, you know, the burn permits are technically enforceable by the Air Quality Board, but when we get a complaint, we go out and essentially say, you know, you're really supposed to have a burn permit. And if you don't have a burn permit, these are the consequences. And so I don't see that this is a lot different. If there was a way, if the different fire departments were willing to receive the complaints, you know, then potentially the fire departments could just go out and explain. They could do some of the education. But again, yeah, we're totally non-regulatory, just like we are with the burn permits.
And that may go farther, Carol. I like that idea because it may go further with local communities because it's, you know, the VFDs are community members, you know, versus, you know, an area of the county where we may not have that level of presence. You know, to have that kind of rapport, you know, with members of specific communities.
Well, I can ask Nick to put it on the agenda for the next Fire Chiefs Association and just see what kind of feedback we get from the fire department chiefs.
So I'm curious, I think there's very early talks with the county's community development department about potentially updating the fire safe ordinance. Do you think it's worth, like, am I opening a can of worms by asking the question of if we're going to be creating this sort of subgroup to discuss the vegetation management ordinance, do we want to combine the efforts for both vegetation management and fire safe ordinance and the way they're different, the way they're saying, like how we want them to change?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
You're in there doing the work. Part of it may as well be more complete,
right?
If you're willing. That's
Yeah,
great.
because it seemed like a lot of that discussion came up when we met for the 4290.
Mhm. Mhm.
And Cal Fire, Cal Fire was, we're focusing on the structure. And if, can we get an engine in and out of there?
Mhm.
And that's, as far as I take it, so.
Are we done with this conversation?
I believe, I mean, any other comments on the ordinance?
Could I comment on it real quick?
Sure.
I'm very active in this in the Ruth area. I've been through the fires up there. And I completely agree. You have homeowners that are not educated enough, and we've been doing a lot trying to get education out there. And the last thing you want to do is be the bad person, but it's informing these homeowners. If they don't do this, the penalty is if there's a fire, your structure is going to be red tagged and it's gone. So it doesn't have to come from you guys or the county. It can come as education to them saying, hey, if there's a fire, Forest Service is not going to come in here because it's too dangerous to bring an engine in and have personnel in there. And that's worked well. Also informing them that it's not us, but their insurance companies will cancel them in a heartbeat with an aerial shot because they're not fire prone in that area. So you can use those entities to help them make a decision to move forward with the vegetation removal around their property and not be the bad guy. But between the insurance companies and being red tag for a fire, present to them, is it worth losing everything to do a little bit of clearing? At the end of the day, you're out and you're helping your neighbors. And we don't have to present it in a way that, hey, we're going to come in and cut everything down and clear it. No, we need to remove some fuel to make it safe for you, make it safe to your property doesn't burn, but also protect your neighbors. And you don't have other agencies coming after you to not protect your structure if there's fire or remove your insurance.
That's a great point, Joe.
And there's insurance companies out there that pay for this to be done. I just had a guy call me last week, and it's $40,000 he got from his insurance company because I told him to bring it up with the insurance company to have the fuel reduction removed around his house. And a lot of people are not aware of that.
I've never heard that.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Who the insurer was?
Yeah, I do. Hang on one second. I do, and I put it on my land clearing page. It was AIG.
Okay,
Wow.
interesting. Thanks.
And State Farm, I want to say, has a crew also, or will put not State Farm, sorry, Farmer State. No, I think it's Farmer Brothers, one of them. But they have money to put toward it too.
Interesting. Thanks.
So I got something to insert too. I don't know much about, I haven't read the ordinance or how you guys are educating and all that. But one thing I've noticed, I'm getting positive feedback from residents, being a fire guy, is they like hearing it from fire people. People that have sat there, defended, and explaining to them like, this is why I'm not gonna do this. I have kids at home and you have brush over there and I can't get my engine in and out. So having that, like the VFDs going up, like you mentioned, I think is a golden ticket because they hear it from people that are on the front lines that have seen stuff and they're like, this is what's going on. Here's why, this is what I see. And if you do this, that's a lot better. If you do this even greater, that's way better. So something to think about.
That's good. Yeah, we can engage our local area advisors for sure.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so we're creating a subgroup. I hope, Carol, you don't get tired of me because I bother you so often.
Never.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go ahead and jump down to item number 4, which is grants. Request a letter of support, and I'll let Skylar.
Okay. Could I just interrupt for 1 second beforehand?
Sure.
I was just curious, Carol, you had a problem speaking to us and then you were able to solve it. And I was wondering if what you did might be able to help Heidi, because I really did want to hear what she had to say. And I know we're doubling back on the agenda, but if that would work, it'd be great.
No, Pat has his own special microphone that I forgot to turn on.
Oh. Heidi, are you still not able to talk? All right. Okay, well, maybe you could pop me a quick email if you had some thoughts on that letter. Okay, thanks.
And I saw Erin, see, or Shay pop on. Was she gonna?
Real quick, I see that Shauna says that she's gonna have to hop on another meeting. Did you wanna quickly plug the VOAD? Or no, I think she just left.
Did she just? Okay.
Okay, never mind. All right, Shay, can I punch the letter to you?
Yes, would you, or is there a way you could share it, screen share the letter, or should I pull it up?
I can screen share. This is order letter.
So we're applying for another PG&E grant to do some roadside thinning in the Burt Ranch area along Pony Express Road by the school. I'll give you guys a moment to read the letter and you can comment as you wish. And I also have the map I can pull up after you guys read that as well. We can discuss more. I will also mention that Skylar and I checked, and it's okay for both the Watershed Research and Training Center and the Southern Trinity Fire Safe Council and our Fire Safe Council to apply for a PG&E grant. So our ask should not affect the other ask, the other letter of support that the Fire Safe Council gave for the other PG&E ask.
Would you like me to unshare so you can share the map?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'll probably need permission, or do I?
Request? It should work now, I think.
Okay. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so it'll be the green area. So this is in the CWPP project as well. So this will be Downriver project number 9 in the CWPP. If you know your CWPP projects by heart. Yeah. Quite a few. So I also have to re-familiarize myself with them. But yeah, so this is what we'll be submitting to PG&E, and it'll be around 30 acres along areas along by the power line. And this will hopefully help with access by the school and everything. And yeah, I think it'd be a great project, and it'll help with a lot of continuity of some projects that hopefully will be accepted, passed in the CWDG if we're allowed to, if we get that agreement executed for Downriver as well as some other projects we have in that area.
This is Dina Magdaleno. As a member of this community and a former employee of Burt Ranch School, the school area is the place where people come, not only for gatherings, but in times of disaster, and is set up, has agreement with PG&E to put in a generator for emergency services, and it's really making it as safe as possible to be able to access the school during disaster is very important to the Burt Ranch community.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have any comments or questions about the project? We will be submitting the proposal tomorrow, so would love to get the Fire Safe Council support.
Okay, anybody have any other questions regarding this letter of support? Hearing none. If there's no opposition to this, I'll go ahead and sign this letter of support. Going once, going twice, signed. Thank you very much. Thank you for that great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing that, we can go ahead and go back over to Skylar for her coordinator update.
Okey doke. So starting off, we have 5 contracts under our Wildland Fire Assessment Program signed with local VFDs. So we're excited for that and a productive year of fire safe home assessments across Trinity County. For our Firewise Communities program, we have at least 1 member confirmed for each Firewise Community Board for this year. So we're really excited to start the year real strong, already having contacts for our community boards and starting to get our Firewise Community Boards meetings scheduled, which we already had our Trinity Center Firewise Community Board this month. For our Neighborhood Ambassador program, we have our first event of the year this Saturday. It's going to be a Scotch broom pull in Hawkins Bar or Trinity Village. So that's very exciting. And then we're going to have our second event of the year, not this Saturday, but next Saturday in Rush Creek. And then other events happening before the next Fire Safe Council meeting is some members of our Trinity County Fire Safe Council are going to go to a Trinity Village community meeting next Saturday to talk about fire safe topics and what the Fire Safe Council does. And then we're going to be tabling at Hayfork on April 11th. We'll be at the Plant and Seed Exchange on April 12th. And then there are a few days where you might say, oh, you guys are doing 2 things in one day. That is correct. Very exciting. We're going to have 2 people at the Fire Bells tabling and then 2 people at the Fire Jills on April 18th. And then on April 24th, we're going to be heading down to the Mad River community meeting. Our Hayfork Trinity County Firewise Fair is on for May 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's going to be a whole lot of fun and education. And in terms of training this week, Fire Safe Council staff have re-upped our red card certification, so that's great. And the reason why Emily Drain isn't here to talk about the Firewise Fair and other things she's been working on is she's getting her red card training this week, so that's very exciting. And then regarding the CWPP update, it continues, and we aim to have an internal draft complete within the next month or so, so that's pretty cool. Initially, we were hoping to have public review in May, but it's more looking like we'll have internal review around April or May. And then finally, best for last, community chipping. We're accepting applications for chipping services starting in May. So the link I sent in the chat, which has the agenda and meeting materials, also has a link to the Trinity County RCD and Watershed Research and Training Center chipping dates and how you can sign up for chipping. And there was also an ad in the Trinity Journal yesterday, a half page. You can cut that out, and it also has an application, so you can cut it out of your newspaper if you get it, a physical copy, and then you can drop it off at the Watershed Center RCD office. So very exciting and excited for community chipping coming up. And I will leave it at that.
Okay. Now we'll go ahead and go into project updates. We're going to start at the end of the list and go with Sophia with the Watershed Training Center.
Hello, Sophia had to step out and run some very critical errands. So I'm Megan Colleen. I also work at the Watershed Center, and I will give the updates right now. Okay, our Cal VTP for Hyampom is complete with the CEQA process, and that covers 20,000 acres. We are sending out outreach packets, letters to landowners in Hayfork for a fuels reduction project to develop site treatment plans, get started with CEQA in places where we need botany and archaeological surveys for places that need mitigated negative declarations. We're excited for the Hayfork Firewise Fair. That's going to be awesome. We are bringing on our field crews in April, so that's good news. We're going to move forward with our chipping in May as well. And we are, yeah, we're just moving forward with implementation. So I'm reading her notes. I think that covers all of our updates for the watershed center.
Okay, thank you very much for that update. Any questions for Watershed Training Center? Seeing, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move down to U.S. Forest Service Six Rivers National Forest. Kristen, did she stay? Yeah, she's still with us. Any
There we
else?
go. I am still here. Yeah, so we have a new fire patrol that we just hired. So fire hiring is still going on. So contrary to what I said before, we are still hiring our fire staff. That's the resource staff and others that aren't being hired. And so he started. So we have a new patrol here. He will be a forest protection officer as well. So having the ability to write citations. Gary Lawhead is retiring after 30 years here in a couple of weeks. So we kind of just swapped one out for the other. We're continuing with our fuel reduction work on Mad Ridge Fuel Break. Have some burning planned for there. Some of our other pile burning up in the Lassix is kind of on hold because of the weather right now. Too much snow to get up there. And our new District 5 County Supervisor, Julia Brownfield, has been having town halls, and she's having one tonight, and I'll be attending that. So I think I'll just keep it brief there for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Kristen? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on over to U.S. Forest Service Shasta Trinity. I know we have Casey in the room. I think we had, I think Robert had to drop off, but Elliot.
Yes. So I'm here. Hello again. All right. So just some updates for us. So the projects that I was showing you folks last time we were there, the last meeting, East Texas and Red Mountain. We've completed all of the acres on East Texas. That was 578 acres of prescribed fire over there. And that's all wrapped up. We do have a few residual piles that were left unburnable, so we'll have to go back and clean those up in the future. After that, we moved over to our Red Mountain project, and we were able to spend a few days out there burning and completed 322 acres over there as well. So really good burning conditions on both of those. We're over here on the South Fork. We're going to be wrapping up our prescribed fire for the year. We may do some understory burns if we can get those plans approved, but they're still in the planning process. And as far as that, we're going to be moving over to some what we call forest account work in the High and Palm area, a part of the High and Palm Community Wildfire Risk Reduction Project. So it's basically going to be just up the hill from the airport on Forest Service land. So we're going to be focusing on a boundary field break, shaded field break, that's going to run along the Forest Service boundary. And then we're going to be going in there and assessing what we could do in some areas that are open and free from LOPs. And that's going to consist of anything from general fuels reduction, thinning, etc., to masticating, and possibly even just putting in some dozer lines there. So the area that we're looking at, we definitely want to put landscape type burning in, type 2 burns. So that's we're going to be going out there next week and assessing, what areas we need to work in, what we need to do, and we should be starting with that within a week or two, with boots on the ground over there. So yeah, you'll see a pretty heavy presence of the Forest Service over in Hind Palm here coming up. We're all pretty excited about the project. And yeah, that's the end of the report from me.
All right. Thank you for that. Casey, do you have some stuff you want to add?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you guys are in the loop. Our Chief One, Todd Mack, is retiring at the end of this month, so we'll be having that vacancy coming up. Currently, our Chief Two, Alex McFath, is filling in the interim until they can fill that position with the freezing and all of that. They don't know if we can do a detail behind them. Locally, on the TRMU side, we just finished the last of our lower level piles burnings, and we just wrapped up out of Rush Creek and Highway 3 yesterday. So now with weather and this rain, we're going to see at some point if we can get to the higher elevation up in the Lake Forest area. So if we can, then we'll pick up burning up there. But in the meantime, with the way the weather looks, we're looking at potentially May understory burns up here locally out of WCF. So we're still in the realm for doing a prescribed fire. It's just switching gears, looking to see what's next. In the meantime, I reached out to BLM. They're needing help burning some of the local piles in the area, so we're going to try to step up workforce and help them out with that. But there's some other stuff we're trying to figure out in the behind the scenes that should start next week if we can get everything figured out and start a project around Indian Creek out in that area with them if we can. Other than that, we're slugging through hiring. I know it's just touch and go on right now, like Six Rivers was saying, is we're processing candidates, doing all that, waiting for the green light to get job offers. That's happening. It's just trickling in. And we're still having conversations with SPI, which you guys were talking about too, their grants on doing work with us. So that's happening. Trying to see how our projects align and who benefits and what work and all that stuff. So yeah, we're just getting all the processes in place and for planning and all of that stuff and moving forward. Granted, I know last meeting there was a big concern about Forest Service staff, but we're still doing what we can to keep these community projects going, because that is our number one priority. That's pretty much a quick update without getting too much details out there.
All right, any questions for Casey? Okay, we'll go ahead and move down to, I tell Dina on here, from Snugway. Dina?
Hello. The one thing I have to share with you is something that was really exciting that happened. The Six Rivers National Forest and Cal Poly Humboldt came out to one of our former village sites and did a LiDAR study. And it's right there near the mouth of South Fork. And the study actually revealed areas that need to be protected in case of flood or fire or over recreating. And it was really a very positive thing and very unintrusive and has the potential for helping in rural areas like ours where these extensive archaeological studies have not been completed. The cameras themselves are revealing important things, and we were really delighted with the outcome. Our local ranger is returning April 7th. He told me Nolan Colegrove is on a detail in Lassen. And our plan for right now is to continue to work with our two forests locally to protect sites and cultural resources and prevent fire, because everything else is unpredictable at this point. So, and the final thing Cindy had posted that there's going to be a BOAD, Trinity County BOAD conference on April 9th at the Native Cultural Center in Big Bar, and would like everyone to consider attending. And I think that's what Shauna wanted to report out on also.
Yeah, I think she put the flyer in the chat.
Great.
Okay, any questions for Dina?
Dina, I don't know if you want to share, but at the last meeting, you mentioned that the Sinungwe were being impacted by some of the freezes. Has that been released, or this impacts will happen?
To my knowledge, nothing is moving. I think that my understanding is the Willow Creek Community Project is unfrozen, but there's no evidence of it yet. And so everybody's just being very cautious about moving forward on anything. And I anticipate that the NOAA project that we had planned and signed, it seems like NOAA's not doing very well in this modern climate. But it was about the coho, and the tribes are very concerned about the coho in the river. So there's some hope, but no movement.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on down to Trinity County RCD. Who wants to? Shay's on there still.
Shay, you got something to report out for us?
Sure. Yeah, so it's been pretty busy past month. There's been a lot of contract work, and also our crews have been busy at work. So our crews, the district crews, were at JC Park doing a lot of piling there along the golf course, or this golf course. And then there's a lot of work, contracting work being done in the Vista units in Pettyjohn, around 100 acres of that, and over 200 acres of work still being done in Reading Indian Creek. And then I believe our crews will start up again in State Lands Commission for this upcoming month. And then we're also doing a lot of planning right now. Still be work happening in the Trinity Camps project. We are, our forestry crews are outlining McConnell project, so the Trinity Hazard Mitigation project. We still have not heard about the environmental compliance, FEMA approving the environmental compliance to that. So we're still on hold, but I'm going to have a meeting with McConnell hopefully in April to talk about how we might, move forward, especially with this timeline, since we already have a contractor picked out for that project. And Skylar already mentioned community chipping, which is going to start in Sawyer the week of April 28th. And that's about all I have for that.
Anything from you, Emily?
I'm good right now.
Miles?
The Fire Safe Council will be at Douglas City School starting March 31st, and we'll be teaching in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade classrooms, which will be exciting.
You'll see my boy.
Oh my
Nice.
God.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Anything from you, Crystal?
Been working with Skylar on the CWPP and fuel reduction projects, ArcGIS online interface called the Web Experience. So that's what I've been working on and editing recently for Fire Safe Council.
Great. I wanted to give Shay a shout out. She's been working really hard to close out our 2021 CAL FIRE awards, both the Forest Health and the Fire Prevention grants that are wrapping up on Monday. And we've been jamming on that for months and months and months, trying to get all that spent out. After that, we'll be jumping to our new CAL FIRE Forest Health grant, which was awarded last year. And so those are monumental efforts, trying to make sure that we get all that money spent out and get all of our accomplishments documented and whatnot. So thanks, Shay, for all your big work on that. Yes, Carol, I see your hand up.
Oh, I just wanted to put a plug in for, please don't forget the piles that need to be burned by the RCD crew at the Trinity Knolls. Because I'm still getting questions. I can't go to the post office. I have to hide from the homeowners there. When are the piles going to get burned? And we do need some advance notice so the fire department can get some rigs up there. So don't forget us.
I won't, Carol. I'm looking into it right now. I wasn't there at the start of that project, so I was a little bit confused on where the funding was coming from that, but I believe we're gonna try it. We might actually try and see if we can get combine the Hobel dump and the other funding and try and.
I think Bethany told me it was the CAL FIRE funding.
The CAL FIRE is ending this month, so I just wasn't able to.
Well, I think that's why she was trying to get it done earlier this spring, but whatever.
Yeah, sorry about that, but I'm gonna try and get it done this spring. I'm gonna have someone work on it.
Okay, and I think that's it in the RCD.
Okay. We'll move on to, oh yes, me. So we are in the final stretch of readytrinity.org. This is what I've been talking about, the new website for our alert and warning registry. And it'll also have all of the zone information on it, any pertinent information on current disasters or situations, a lot of information for preparing for wildfire season or any season that comes up. We're still working with Motorola, which is that owns Rave. That's our platform for our new alert and warning system. We're just in the final stages of getting getting the information to them. And then once we can turn that public facing, then we'll put out the Ready Trinity site. We're also looking at advertising on the back of Trinity Transits for that. Public Health is going to be doing a lot of outreach. You can say once I can finally release this thing, we'll be putting it out everywhere through social media, newspaper, wherever we can. We did, a lot of people probably got a code red test alert a couple weeks ago. That was so we could purge our system of unwanted and unneeded and unused phone numbers on our system, and then be able to take that information and give it to the transition team. And we're trying to transition everybody that was on code red over to the Ready Trinity platform. We don't know what the success is going to be on that, but we're still asking everybody, even if we were able to get them transitioned, we want them to still go in and update their registration to make sure that they're getting all of the alerts. We're partnering with the Weather Service to make sure that we can get their weather alerts out to our county residents on that. So there's a lot to come on that. I've reached out to all of our local area advisors, and I believe I've gotten responses from every one of them, every community that has one. Basically just asking if they're want to continue to serve as the local area advisor for their community, and everybody has responded yes. So I'll be creating a Board of Supervisors agenda item just to renew all of their contracts with the county through the Board of Supervisors. Dina already mentioned about the Trinity County BOAG Conference. Like I said, I believe the flyer is in the chat. Kind of working with the county, with county administration to reassess and just look at our communication infrastructure for our fire departments and for law enforcement, see where there's gaps, see where there's issues, and start putting some grant resources towards those places. We're going up to each one of the repeater sites, and there's been a site that never got a repeater on it, but right away has been cleared through Bureau of Land Management. So we're maybe looking at that site and see if we can maybe add another repeater to gain a little more coverage. And lastly, we're closing out a couple of grants, couple of our Homeland Security grants for fiscal year 21 and 22 are closing out this year. A lot of great projects we were able to do with those two grants and the Emergency Management Progress Grant for fiscal year 23 is closing this year. I say a lot of projects with communication for our fire departments. We've purchased countless two-way radios for them, gear, even several generator projects throughout the county to back up areas where infrastructure is definitely needed during power outage, and we've seen a lot more power outages lately. So other than that, that is the end of my report. Any questions?
Are you allowed to tell us where the new one might be added for the repeater?
No.
Okay.
Actually, it's Hoadley Peak. It was actually assessed back in so far long ago. I believe that John Hall was the emergency manager, and I found an old binder, and I'm still updating every year, updating with Bureau of Land Management to keep that right away, but we've never done anything with it. So we're kind of looking at that. And then some of the other stuff is just really looking at, like I say, our infrastructure, anything from, just either getting generators up there. We're doing a generator project for Oregon Mountain for all the repeaters there. Hayfork Bali, hopefully putting up some new antennas for FireNet for Hayfork. So just really assessing each location and trying to create a trail of information, so the next person who comes along can just look at that and go, this is who owns the property. This is the code to the gate if somebody's got to get up there. This is the equipment that's there. So I'm learning a lot about who owns what. And so it's been, but I'm just really, really happy the way it's turning out, and hoping to keep the momentum going on that. So thank you for your question. And then we will go to Jerry Cousins with the Collaborative Group.
Hi, two items to share. During several field trips with Forest Service, BLM, and private industry last summer and fall, the Collaborative was asked to come up with some recommendations for treating more landscape projects. Kind of like what we did for the shaded roadside fuel break, which was very linear, but they wanted to now expand. So after listening to what they wanted, the Collaborative has come up with a document that has been signed off or vetted through Forest Service, BLM, and other agencies. The title of it is just Strategy for Federal Land Management. And that's going through Kelly, who is the facilitator for the Collaborative, to submit it for the Board of Supervisors in April for approval. So that's pretty exciting, and probably if people want to read it, Kelly has a copy with everybody's email address. Does that work okay, Kelly?
You bet.
Okay. And then the other thing is, just yesterday, kind of a subgroup of the Collaborative struck a deal with Alert California for a new camera up on Frethy Ridge, or in that area looking up towards Trinity Center. It's on SPI land, and there already is a pole in place and owned by Velocity, and the cost of the camera and the annual maintenance fees will be absorbed by Alert California. We spoke with a fellow who's the founder of Alert California, Neil Driscoll, and he very graciously said if we provided a shovel-ready spot, he'll put a camera up and cover the cost. So that should be happening this year, this summer. I think that's it.
That's huge.
That's great.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for all your hard work with everybody. And I was actually on the phone with Carol at the time that you guys were on that call and telling me that news. It was awesome.
Yeah, and we're still waiting for Forest Service to move on Ironside and downriver. And we're also at some point looking for Bonanza King, which has a wider view shed, but one step at a time.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious with Ironside because I have a repeater up there that we would like to at least just get the solar panel and the antenna and the repeater up a little higher to get it out of the snow during the winter for emergency communications down there. So I'd like to collaborate with you on that when you start working with the Forest Service, because I know that that site has just been kind of left to its own devices, but it's very critical for our downriver communications. So,
well, absolutely, Philip, but I don't think there's going to be any new construction happening.
yeah, I just want to raise the thing up the pole a little bit.
Oh,
Right now,
just raise it up. Oh, okay.
well, the repeater, from what I understand, is in a metal box leaning up against a pole with an antenna,
Right.
a solar panel stuck to it.
Okay,
So,
all right. We'll be in touch, all right?
I would love to be able to do. I don't know, what the hope is for that, but if we could even just get the thing up a few feet off the ground so it doesn't get buried in the snow. But that's,
Sure.
I'm willing to take that to the ring.
We continue to get great promises out of Forest Service, but no action. So
Yeah, well,
we're working on it.
thank you for your continued support and on that. Okay, Trinity Center Fire Department, Carol.
Well, you all are invited to our Firewise Fair, which is May 10th from 11 to 2. And so that is a lot of different information booths and kid water games and free hot dog lunch. How can you resist that? And it is across the street from our annual plant and seed exchange. So for Trinity Center, that's a big community event. We hope to have a lot of attendees and be able to hand out a lot of information. So that's, May 10th. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is quick background around Trinity Center Airport. There was serious fuel loading to the point where the county was having issues renting the county-owned hangars. The people couldn't get insurance. And so Dave Colbeck worked with assorted agencies and had the con camp come up and do a bunch of fuel reduction. So there are tons of piles of stuff that needs to be burned. But right now, since Dave has left, the county doesn't know who is responsible for burning the piles that are on county land. The Forest Service is not sure about burning piles on the Forest Service land, and some of them are on private land. So right now it's kind of crickets as far as trying to get someone who wants to take the lead and deal with kind of all the piles that were left from the fuel reduction. So we're kind of working on that. That's it.
Okay, any questions for Carol?
Yeah, Carol, it was brought to our attention that there was a lot of, after the logging operations that took down a lot of the trees that were around the airport, that there was some level of, I don't know, I guess the way I understood it was there was kind of a lot of slash and stuff left in the KOA campground. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know, so part of the KOA campground is on land they leased from the Forest Service.
Right.
So that was logged. And yeah, the piles that the logger left are huge. I mean, like house-sized piles. And so if Cody's still there, I've been working kind of trying to get, I've gotten responses from Cody and Nate that essentially the logger has to come back and pull those apart and make them into smaller burn piles and deal with them essentially next fall. So my concern is that the KOA campers are going to be whacking on them, starting fires and stuff. But anyway, that's just something we'll have to deal with. But yeah, the Forest Service knows that the logger still has to come back and deal with all that material that was left.
Well, it sounds like the Forest Service wanted us to come up and deal with their mess, and I was like,
good luck.
What in the world would the operator not be dealing with all of that?
So it was, sorry, so it was Dara Logging. And you might want to check with either Cody or Nate, because my understanding is that they are supposed to come back and deal with those piles.
Okay, that's good news, because that's not the type of thing we want to be dealing with.
No, you'd need a boom truck with a grapple to essentially pull them apart, because they're log-sized piles. I don't know if your crew told you that, but I mean they're the tops of trees that are probably 12 to 16 feet long, all lined up in big, huge piles in windrows.
Gotcha.
So I can speak to that. I'm working on that on the Forest Service side, working with with you guys on going out and helping with cleanup with the campsite, not the piles. The piles I'm looking at, and I'm looking at getting our equipment operators in with excavators to break those piles apart and separate them for firewood, because there is good wood cutting in there. And at this point in time, I'm not favoring inviting those piles in the fall, because it will end up with more tree mortality in the area, trying to figure out a better situation to do and how to get rid of them. So I'm currently working on that. I was told there's a fire curtain I can bring out, or I think county has one, or whatever that looks like.
You mean an air curtain burner?
Yes, an air curtain burner, bringing that out, and if we can, but I'm still trying to track that down. So we know about it and the condition of what that campground is, it's still in that implementation process, and we were expecting that kind of slash to be in the campground, with the next phase of us going in and removing that slash and cleaning up after the logger, because it is a campground and we do have more campsites on that contract coming out. So currently in the process of working it out.
Okay, because I mean, it seems to me that that's the responsibility of the operator.
I don't deal with that side of it. I'm just handed with from the timber side on, hey, this is the fuel shop thing, and the equipment's not coming back. So
Oh.
I am, so it's just as surprised as you about it. And
well, maybe Kristen can speak to this. I know that Six Rivers had an air curtain burner, but I've never heard of another one in the county other than that one that they borrowed from CDF.
Right.
Or CAL FIRE on from the coast.
Right.
Are you thinking of the tub grinder versus the air curtain burner?
I spoke to you about an air curtain burner. It's flat enough out there. We're looking at utilizing one on the Browns project, but it was too steep. But I don't know where they were sourcing it from, so I'm still trying to track that down.
Kristen, do you guys still have access to that air curtain burner?
Yeah, we have an agreement with CAL FIRE and they own it and we use it. Lower Trinity has been trying to purchase one themselves, but I'm not sure where they are at with that. But I'm not aware of any others around on the forest.
The only one I've ever heard of in Trinity County, really. So that was why I was. Wondering about that. Thanks, Kristen.
Sure.
That's
Yeah, it'd
something.
be good, it would be good to figure this out, because obviously we're getting mixed answers. The emails I had were that the Darrell Logging had to come back and deal with those piles. But
Hmm.
who knows?
Okay, well, thanks for that.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, into your report, Carol?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on down to Larry with Safe.
Yeah, well, we're busy watchdogging all kinds of these executive orders and bills in Congress. I've been spent more time reading bullshit than I've think in the last 3 months than I have in the last 10 years. But watching all of that stuff to figure out how it's going to play out on the ground around here. And one thing Jerry didn't mention about the Trinity Collaborative is that we're changing up our meeting schedule. We're going to be meeting on Thursdays, the third Thursday at 10 o'clock for the meetings, and for the field trips, they're staying on Friday. So if people are interested in the field trips, they're still going to be on Friday, and I'd highly recommend folks joining us on the field trips. A lot of important information gets relayed on those field trips.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that forward, Larry. I'm not wearing my facilitator hat very tightly. But I appreciate you mentioning the change in that scheduling.
Okay, that's all you got, Larry?
Yeah, that's it. And I appreciate all the work that you've got to do. So nobody's holding you responsible for not mentioning that little detail.
Well, that's a good point, though. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Okay, I think Cindy from Norrell had to drop off. I don't see her on there anymore. So we'll go bring it back to the room for Chris with Flora. Oh, I'm sorry.
I am on fire safe with Kent.
Kent, let's see, where do I lose it? Have it on my.
I am on fire safe.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm sorry. Kent.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about that.
thanks. No project updates to report, but I would like to add that we are pleased to see all the progress on towards implementation on the two projects in High Palm, the CWDG, the Watershed Center, and the on private land, and then the wildfire risk reduction project through the Forest Service on federal land. It feels like the culmination of a lot of discussion and planning since we first started talking as Fire Safe Council in High Palm in 2008. So pleased to see all that.
Wonderful, thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Flora, Chris?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, we got
Sorry.
some updates. We got updates related to one project, and I think we've talked about it. Astrid from the Post Mountain VFD, she wasn't able to make it. She's at work right now. But I think I mentioned this a couple times. We got a grant through NCRP to do technical assistance for Post Mountain VFD to deal with some dead trees created in 2015 from the Blue Fire. They're still standing on private land. I think I mentioned last month that we had prepared an initial assessment. That's now up on Flora's website. And in discussions with a bunch of people, we're realizing that we did an assessment of kind of the whole area. We've gotten about 6 individuals who've truly signed up and showed the requisite intent to be part of the project. It's often, one of the things, you deal with in Post Mountain is just a lot of absentee landowners, a lot of folks who are wary of government or, outside funding. Flora, we have a leg up, I think, in a lot of ways, but still there's overcoming a lot. So what we're trying to do now is get people to sign up. We don't have money, we don't have a NEPA yet, but we want to get people to sign up to know that there's interest, to know what we can try to plan and what we can try to implement. So we yesterday actually we sent out letters to 80 landowners based on the assessor rolls. I don't know that the success rate may not be great, but we sent out to everybody who we had through aerial photography and ground truthing identified as potentially being affected by the blue fire that still have dead trees. We expect to get expect to hear back over the next couple of weeks. We are going to be, Jack, our VP of Business Development, tells me that the best time to post things on Facebook is at 4 p.m. So at 4 p.m. we will be posting on Facebook a post about the blue fire. I would love to share that with the group when it comes out. So send something to Skylar then.
That's perfect.
Okay, it'd be great if you could share. It's coming out in English and Hmong. We've got a Hmong translation, and we're sharing with the Hmong community. Then on April 11th, the Post Mountain PUD board is meeting, their regular meeting, and we're having a discussion there. So we'll be down there. Anybody who wants to go out, welcome to come out. 10 a.m. April 11th, second Friday of the month, every month. And then the next phase is well, there's a lot more phases. We're going to be working with the Neuronbook. I need to reach out to Tracy and Cindy about that. We're putting together, hopefully we'll be working closely with the RCD on some CEQA. So like to work with the RCD on some CEQA to get the CEQA permissions. And then once we get that all, we'll have a better idea of how, once we get all that together, we'll have a better idea how much it costs. And we can apply for more grant funding. And what we're finding is there's some logical places to do this work where most of these farmers they've got the developed area near the road, but they've got an acre or two behind their developed area. And if we can link some of these together, we can create potentially a network of fuel breaks out there. And that'll be the first stage of really getting more of Post Mountain involved in fuel reduction. So it's kind of exciting, and hoping that we can still get, notwithstanding all the holdups in funding, we're hoping we can still find a little bit of money to make this happen. Our questions.
All right. Jessica, you can.
Is that everything that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for Flora? Okay, seeing none. I don't believe we have, unless there's anybody that's online that's left that we didn't get to or have a report out. Quick raise of the hand, if not. Okay. So we'll go into future discussion items, where we're gonna want to cover at our next meeting.
I don't have anything.
Anybody got any suggestions, anything that you'd like to see discussed next month? Okay, well, Kelly's thinking.
I would put some thought in.
Okay, well, we'll work on that.
Not off the top of my head.
Last call for anything discuss. I believe. Oh, okay. I saw Carol jump on you. Okay, good. All right. Well, I mean not to.
Go away.
Good. Carol knows me too well. If with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn today's meeting. I'd like to thank everybody that hung in there. Great discussion, a lot of work. Thank you, Skylar, for all of your hard work, and everybody else that came in today. And we will see you all next month. Thank you all, and stay safe. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.